My name is Sheila, and this is a story about persistence. Well, anyone who knows me well would probably describe me as determined, very practical, grounded, dependable, sensible, especially with money. I'm a little tight. Loyal, patient, self-disciplined, ever so cautious, and believe it or not, introverted. Well, for you people out there into the horoscopes, you will recognize the sign Taurus, the bull. Any Taurus, the bulls here? Well, over the past 67 years, my persistence has been tested. And I've overcome many, many obstacles and achieved some of my goals that I set for myself. However, persistence with a capital P really tested me in 1979 in Jakarta, Indonesia. In late April, just before sunset, Mark, this is my then live-in boyfriend, and I were lazing on the most spectacular white sandy beach on the island of Bali, Kuta Beach. Well, we were on a short holiday from our English language teaching job that we had in Jakarta, in which we were making $475 a month. And we had been living together before that, about 6 months before that in San Francisco. And before that, we had been carrying on a long-distance telephone relationship for several months while I was living in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Well, this Scorpio man, enigmatic, sensitive, passionate, loving, and very appealing. And this Taurus woman were crazy, crazy in love. I was 30, he was 28. My maternal hormones were squirming and screaming, Sheila, you know that there are 1 to 2 million eggs at birth. Well, they're down to fewer than 400 now. Only 400 left to be ovulated. Tick tock, goes the fertility clock. Well, as I told you, I'm a patient woman. And I said to myself, first comes love. Well, we certainly had at least 18 months of that. And then comes marriage. Marriage, yes? Marriage, please. The moment I had been desperately waiting for had arrived on this Bali beach. You know, Sheila, I've been thinking about us, thinking about what we've had and what we have now. Have you thought about having a family? Would you like to have a family? Do you? I think you popped the question. I hesitate for about a nanosecond. And then, not wanting to appear too eager to seal the deal, you know, make that big C, I blurted out, yes, 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 I love you, I love you, I love you. I want a family too. Although there was no engagement ring, we did have a celebratory lobster dinner and a bottle of champagne, and I'm pretty sure what else followed was the fertilization of that one egg I told you about. Well, a few days later, we were back in Jakarta, making plans to set the date. Simple wedding. we would have no reserving of a hall because we were living with our 8 other teacher colleagues, so we had the house. No food to order, it would be potluck. And we didn't even have to send out invitations. We only had the 8 teachers to invite, the director of ILP, the staff, and of course, our beautiful students. Well, we figured that about 500 guests would come. So we would find out, we'd have to find out where the Kantor Catatan Sipil was. That's the civil registry office. Get on the bus, reserve a date for the following Saturday, and hey, this was going to be a slam dunk wedding. Salamat pagi. Good morning. We are here to schedule a marriage ceremony. As soon as possible, please, Mark said. And then we looked, and there was a rather uncivil, bureaucratic-looking civil servant in a starched white shirt, sitting at a desk behind the counter, and he was pretending like we didn't even exist. On the wall behind him, there was a 8 by 10 inch faded picture of President Suharto, who was also glowering at us. Well, papers and files, they were strewn everywhere. It was chaos. And over to our left, there was this blackboard. And on the blackboard were the names of people who were scheduled to have the civil ceremony. And I saw there were lots of empty slots. So I thought, this is going to be our slot right there. Well, we couldn't get Mr. Grumpy's attention for a while, but when we did, we also noticed there was a kind of dingy sign over the head, sort of to the left of the President Suharto's photo, and on that sign was written, Surat Nikah, 4,150 rupiah. But there was the translation. Marriage certificate, $10. Well, this was great news. $10, that's definitely a bargain. Mark whipped out the passports and the rupee and presented them to the sort of Indonesia's version of the DMV civil servant, you know, on a busy day. A few grunts later, the clerk mumbled, letters? Letters? What letters do we need to provide? Mark said. Suddenly, an avalanche of requirements spewed from this clerk's mouth. Letter of no impediment to marriage. Notice of intention to marry. 4 by 6 centimeter photos of both partners side by side. Valid entry visa, birth certificates, permission from the neighborhood community leader, permission from the district community leader, and letters from both parents saying that they approved of this marriage. Excuse me, sir. I'm 28 and my fiance here is 30. Do we really need permission from our parents to get married? The clerk dismissed us like errant school children. Come back when you have everything. Next. Okay, we can do this, honey. I said, but not very confidently. Love conquers all, right? Think of this as a scavenger hunt, Mark said. Only 3 weeks later, the scavenger hunt became Mission Impossible. And that pregnancy test confirmed that fertilization of that egg I mentioned earlier. Baby Bolduc-Simpson was due on January 27th, 1980. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Will the baby carriage come before the marriage? 4 weeks later, after multiple visits to the Kapaladesas, these are these neighborhood leaders, district leaders, and numerous government offices all over Jakarta, we returned empty-handed, except for 2 forged letters from our parents that I had typed up on the Smith Corona and the ILP office. 5 weeks later, we realized, aha, we've got it. Every Indonesian bureaucrat, especially all those civil servants, they needed hadiah, gift, which really was sogokan, bribe. We had mastered the art of persistence, but not the art of bribing. Mark, we need serious help. Ask your students what you should do. Well, the next day, my student Ina came to the rescue, and she said, my mother, she'll fix everything. She was our genie in the magic lamp. Poof. In 5 minutes, on the following Saturday, on June 9th, 1979, Mark, Ina's mom, and I marched into the civil service office. Salamat pagi, Ina's mother began. Blah, 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 blah. I am sure there are administrative costs in addition to the marriage fee. Blah, 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 blah. Voila. Mr. Not So Grumpy slipped a few rupiah into his pocket, stamped the papers, walked over to the blackboard and wrote, Mark Simpson, Sheila Bolduc, on the June 16th line. With a little help from our friends and a ton of persistence, this bulb and that scorpion had pulled it off. We returned to the civil office, the civil registry office, at 9 a.m. on June 16th with our 2 male witnesses, no maid of honor, no bridesmaids, 2 gold $45 wedding bands. And we stood before a jubilant civil servant, jubilant. I get to practice my English and do the English translation of the Islamic marriage ceremony. He was so happy. I accept, I accept, I accept, I said. I accept, I accept, I accept, he said. We signed the nikah, which is the marriage contract. And we headed back to Jalan Cikajang, where we lived with the 8 other teachers, to the party and the potluck. Ina our first daughter, was born on January 31st, 1980. Mark and I, almost 37 years later, continue on a daily basis to practice the skill of persistence, particularly in matters of the heart. Oh, and yes, we are still crazy in love.